Welcome to the Indie Music Room, a conversation with independent artists about writing, recording, performing, and promoting their original music. And now here's your host, Heather Kelly.
Hey everybody, you're listening to the Indie Music Room with Heather Kelly. I'm excited to introduce our next guest to you for the month of April, and his name is Connor Frost. Hi Connor, how are you?
Hi Heather, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, it's our privilege. Why don't you let the people know kind of where you're from and what your story is?
Sure. So I'm originally from Westchester County, New York, which is right outside New York City, currently where I'm calling from. And I've been a musician pretty much my whole life. I grew up in a really musical family. My father is a composer, arranger, as well as a singer. My mom's a pianist, and was just really grew up in that kind of environment. Wow. When I graduated college, I started my own band, Dizzy Bats, after a bunch of years being in other people's bands. Started my band, Dizzy Bats, I guess it was back in 2011, summer of 2011, and have been doing that kind of as my main musical project ever since. Beyond that, I'm a teacher. I've taught middle school, high school, I've taught elementary school, I've taught adults. And I'm also, I have an online mentoring practice where I work with musicians to reach their goals and get their music out into the world. So yeah, I would say a mix of music and education has brought me here.
You are quite busy. Do you want to name any of the other bands you started off with, or?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll give a couple shout outs.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So my good buddy Mike Squilanti and I, we grew up in the same hometown. We had a band in high school called 7 Days Later. That was kind of my first, I guess, official band. I had done some stuff, playing covers and back when I was in late middle school and early high school. But that band, I think, was really where I started to fall in love with just being in a band and helping to write music and performing, booking shows. It was the first time we played shows in New York City, which was really exciting.
Yeah.
And then in college, I had a band called The End Piece, which was a band that my best friend from college and I started at the school we went to, Connecticut College. And that was also a blast, and really my first sort of dive into writing my own music, which was really cool. I'm a trumpet player as well. I don't play as much as I would like to anymore. But I had a funk cover band in college called Funk the Police, which was a lot of fun. We played played a lot of Herbie Hancock, some Freddie Hubbard, and that was also a blast. And it was just really cool to run that sort of band. Yeah. And then really, since I graduated college, Dizzy Bats has been my thing. I've sat in on bass for a couple tours for my friend Maury, my friend Sam, who plays in a band called Patch Kid, my brother, who has a project called Mugen. But yeah, Dizzy Bats has definitely been the focus over the last decade now, which is crazy.
I understand that. I released 4 albums in 10 years, so I know how much work goes into that. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Speaking of recording and stuff, how do you guys go about your process? Do you go to a studio or do you do it at home, or what do you do?
So I've always hired a producer. I think my strengths lie with songwriting and being a band leader.
Mm-hmm.
And beyond that, I really enjoy bringing other people into our process. So we've worked with a couple different producers, largely in the New York area. Most recently, John Markson, who plays in a band called Such Gold. He produced our most recent record, which we released a few weeks ago. And he's also produced, losing track now, I think 3 or 4 of our other releases. So he's been someone who's been in our corner pretty much from the beginning. We also went to college together. So yeah, we write the songs on our own, depending on the year and because there's been a lot of different lineup changes.
Right.
I've sort of been the constant. So depending on the lineup and the situation, it's either very collaborative amongst other band members, or it's not so collaborative. recently, this past release was definitely the most collaborative effort that we've had. We wrote the songs together, we demoed them out together on our own at home. Then we brought them to pre-production to our producer. So yeah, it's usually write, demo, pre-production, record, mix, and we go the studio route.
Well, that's great. What studios have you played in?
So
that's a big question because it sounds like you do quite a bit with your life. So if you can name a few of them.
Yeah. So the first record we ever did was a place called The Gallery Recording Studio, which was in Bushwick, Brooklyn. Has since closed, but we did a couple of our recordings there. We also recorded at Cowboy Technical with my friend Kyle Joseph, who produced a couple of our records. That's also in Brooklyn. I think Williamsburg. That was in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. And then most recently, we recorded at Savaria Studios, which is in Williamsburg, Brooklyn as well. So, yeah, we've always been living around not all of us live in Brooklyn,
right?
But we've always been around. We've generally been in the New York area, New York, New Jersey area. So Brooklyn has kind of been like a hub for us.
Oh, great. Well, I know we've got a couple of songs we're going to share with our audience today. The first one I want to talk about is called Alone. Where did you get the inspiration to write that song?
I didn't have to go far. I think it was just my general feeling of feeling alone. And it's funny, when this song we released this song back in January of this year, so not too long ago. And I think everyone kind of assumed that it had to do with the pandemic and feeling isolated.
Right.
And absolutely.
That's what I first went to. Yeah.
Totally. And absolutely it does. But I actually wrote it and we recorded it before the pandemic even happened.
Okay.
So it's just funny how, it's cool how people can relate to it based on what time period they're in or we're in together. And so, yeah, the song is, I've been self-employed for a long time now. So sometimes I feel like my social stimulation is like limited to, my cat and my, the clients and students that I work with. So while I love being able to be self-employed, it definitely, there's some loneliness that comes with it. So that was the main motivation.
Wonderful. Well, let's go ahead and take a listen to Alone, written by Connor Frost.
At home and it's empty, I'm insane. Look out and there's no one inside. Where is that friend? She never really cared. Not there. At home making money, such a dream. Pick this life to be a lonely teach. Where are the kids that never really cared? Not there. So let me sit here inside my pain another year. This cold is here to stay. It's here to stay. This table for one, it's breaking your neck.
That was Alone, Connor. That is a terrific song. I listened to everything last night. Great songs, great songs. And you know, I like your vibe. I don't know if we're close to the same age. Do you mind me asking you how old you are?
I'm 32. I'm 32.
Okay, so no, we're not close to the same age, but I am a 90s girl and I love that music because it kind of gives me that feel of the 90s. I mean, I really like it. Who else? Now, the Dizzy Bats, this is a band that recorded that song, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So this release is a Dizzy Bats release.
Okay.
As have, been the last few releases that I've sort of spearheaded.
And this one was released just on February 19th. Isn't that correct?
Correct. So we released this full-length record, self-titled, on February 19th. That song Alone was the first single, which came out on January 22nd. I think I'm getting that date correct.
Okay.
January 22nd was when Alone was first released. We had a music video for it. An animator put it together for us, which was really cool, Aranza. And so that was like the first single for this record.
Right. I think it's a great song. Tell me a little bit about your touring experience. I know you've been on countless tours, but tell me some of the most memorable shows or anything crazy that's happened. Or
kind of putting me on the spot. I thought maybe something like this kind of question would come up. So some memorable tours. We did a tour back in 2016. It was a full band tour with my buddy Sam, who plays in a band called Patch Kid. And that was just like a really, there's nothing, too crazy per se, but it was just like a really fun tour. A lot of cool shows. I think we also played like 9 shows in 10 days, which isn't like necessarily a lot or too crazy, but just the way we were doing it with like crashing on people's couches and stuff, I definitely felt tired.
Yes.
To put it, and whether that's something that I should be feeling or not, I definitely was tired. And so that was like definitely a memorable tour. 3 years ago, I did a solo Dizzy Bats tour, so without the band, just solo acoustic, but it's still Dizzy Bats. In China and Taiwan, which was really cool. It was sort of like a tour / getaway, but I went with my brother, who makes music under the name Mugen, and our mom is from Taiwan. So it was, we grew up with Taiwanese culture being a big part of our lives. So to be able to go over there and perform in like a formal way was really cool. And the show that we played in Taipei, Taiwan, was awesome. It was like just really respectful crowd. My brother did a really good job promoting that show because he had a lot of ties there, and so it was like a pretty packed room. And I just remember thinking it was like so cool to be in Taiwan, which is like a place that's so important to me, doing the thing that I love the most. Having some family and friends there. Just really, I'll never forget that show, which was beginning of 2018.
I'm sure they gave you a lot of feedback and support you. So that's great.
Totally. Yeah, it was great. Definitely a great night.
You really did come up from a musical family. It sounds like every aspect of your life, friends and family are musically talented. So you definitely came from good bones, but you've got another one. Yeah, you've got another song here called Cut Me Loose. I just listened to this one last night for the first time, and I love this song too. So again, how did this one come up?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that just comes naturally from the way I'm feeling at a particular moment in time. My interpretation of it, sort of my inspiration, was this feeling of anxiety and responsibility, based on certain societal constructs that are created for people in their late 20s, early 30s, whatever it may be. So the idea of just like, cut me free from those constructs, from those responsibilities and ideas, to sort of set me free from that. It's a theme that I've written about, over the past 10 years. So I wasn't necessarily reinventing the wheel, but I think the imagery of being like trapped in a hole and, like literally cut me loose, was what I was going for.
So when you do write a song, do you play piano? Do you start on a piano? Do you start on a guitar? What is your process?
So I generally, the most common thing is that I start on a guitar, or sometimes a melody will come into my head first.
Yeah.
But if I'm starting from zero, so to speak, which I'm not usually, but let's say I'm starting from zero, I'll generally start with a guitar.
Okay.
But again, if a melody comes to me, I'll go from that angle as well.
Well, you kind of mentioned you played multiple instruments. So you play lead guitar, I assume, in the band?
So I actually play rhythm guitar mostly. It sort of depends on the lineup. If it's because we play as like a 3-piece and a 4-piece, depending on the situation. So if we have another guitarist, they'll play lead guitar. On this record, our producer John played a lot of the lead guitar parts, and we wrote a lot of the lead guitar parts together.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love this. This is good. Do you have a schedule? I mean, I know everything since the pandemic has been kind of harder for musicians. Nobody's playing live shows. And I don't know if you tried the online gigs. Did you try those for a while?
I haven't, to be honest. And this is probably silly, but I was sort of avoiding that whole thing for like a while. Like I did a couple just like on Instagram Live, just acoustic, playing acoustic songs or whatever versions of our songs. But I think like for me, it was like, I don't want this, like obviously I love live shows so much. Everyone does.
Yeah.
Like I didn't want this idea of like online streaming to become like the norm, Right. So I kind of like pushed it away for a while. That said, there have been a bunch of bands now who have done it, and they've done it really well.
Right.
And I've definitely been inspired by them. It's one of those things where it's not totally on my mind in terms of, trying to figure out a belated like online stream release show. But I've started in the last few days, I've started to think about it more. But I'm hopeful that, by the end of 2021, early 2022, we'll be able to tour again. We were supposed to be in Mexico touring last year, and that didn't happen, obviously. So
really,
yeah, I know, it was a bummer for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, hoping that can happen either this year or maybe early 2022.
I got chatting so much. Did we play Cut Me Loose or not yet?
I don't believe that we did.
All right. Well, let's take a break and let's listen to Cut Me Loose. And that one again is by the Dizzy Bats and Connor Frost. Here we go.
I'm
Cut Me Loose. And I love that song. I think it's put together very well. Do you have a female singer in your band?
We don't officially know. We've we had Danielle Minch, who's a friend of ours who plays in a really cool band called Behind the Facade.
Okay.
Really cool pop punk band. Yeah, we asked her to hop in for this record, and she did a really great job.
Yes, I agree. I was checking that out last night when I was listening.
Yeah.
Are you in works? Are you writing another album? It seems like you constantly put stuff out. I mean, what is it? 11 releases to date?
Yeah, it's 11 official releases. I would say it's 7 collections because we've released singles that have also been on been on EPs. But yeah, I mean we've put out 40 songs now, which is really cool. And
that's not an easy. Congratulations.
No, I really appreciate that. And recently I've just leading up to this release, just thinking back to all the releases that we do have and like all the music videos that we shot and the tours that we've been on. So I feel like 2020 was definitely a year of like reflection and to have the opportunity to actually like look back and talk to some friends about some memories that that we've all had with this band and this project has been really cool. To answer your question, it's funny actually. Before I hopped on this call, I was working out a new song. I think we're gonna try this thing where we're just gonna like write a lot and finish songs, at least just like the core of a song, like as fast as we can. Not necessarily that it's a race, but the idea that like if the song doesn't come together in like a really natural way, like maybe it's not meant to be, and to not necessarily get so hung up on like, oh, what is the sound of this song? Like, what direction do I want? Just to like write a lot.
Right.
And I think we're going to try that sort of as an experiment. So yeah, I'm sort of the mindset of like, I'm just going to try and write a lot of songs over the course of the next few months and see what happens.
Yeah. My experience with that is I probably have, I don't know, we put out maybe 60 some songs, but I probably have 40 in the cooker that were never, didn't flow as natural, like you said.
Totally.
But they're there for later ideas. And
Totally.
It's interesting how sometimes you can write something and you go, oh, wait a bit, what about that song? And it kind of works with it. And so it's always good to, back up all your ideas and everything. So you can come back to them later.
Absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about, and this will all be posted after the end of the interview on our page, but You've got Instagram, Dizzy Bats, you're on Bandcamp, your YouTube channel. You've got a couple music videos out. I'll make sure to include those. You've got one for Alone and 5 Years. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. And we can find those on YouTube. Okay. I'll make sure all that, is on our website. But the last song today we're going to talk about is That Night.
Yeah. So this is an interesting one. It's one of the first songs I think I wrote telling someone else's story. There's a personal connection. A friend of mine, Michelle, when she was 15, I think she's a couple years older than me. So when we were kids, she was 15. She lost her younger brother to a drunk driving car accident. And I just remember, I think I was like 12 at the time. I just remember thinking that like that's such a obviously a sad thing, but also a really heavy thing for a teenager, my friend Michelle, to take on. And I was just so amazed by the way she did it, because she also had two other siblings who were younger than her. And I just felt like she, over the years, did such an amazing job being a role model for them, being an example for them. And I just thought that was just so unbelievable and amazing, for a teenager.
Yeah.
And then later in her life, I think probably maybe within the last 10 years, she was diagnosed with cancer. She's since been recovered and is cancer free, which is amazing. But I remember hearing that news and just being so like, I just couldn't believe it. You know, someone who had been through so much. So I always wanted to write a song that kind of paid tribute to her journey, just because it had such a profound effect on my life, and using her as an example. And so I started trying to write it, I think back in like 2014, and I just couldn't get it. I couldn't get it right. And so I put it on the shelf for a few years. And then one day I was like, wait, what if I tried to write this song in triple meter in like 6/8 time?
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And it just, the sort of the tango dance 6/8 feel really just worked. And so the rest of the, once that clicked, like the rest of the song kind of wrote itself, which was
Then it came together. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. With that, everyone, we are going to take a listen to That Night, written by Connor Frost. That was called That Night, written by Connor Frost with the Dizzy Bats. And again, a beautiful song, and the story behind it was beautiful. How does your friend feel about that song now that she hears it?
You know, it's funny. I haven't told her yet. I don't know if she's listened to the record. I haven't told her yet, but I plan to. It's on my list. It's funny. I meant to, and then just with the craziness of the release, I was like, oh, I actually haven't shared that with her yet. I had told her about writing the song back in 2014, how had been trying this song, and so yeah, I think it'll be cool for her 7 years later to see how it finally came to fruition.
It'll mean a lot to her. It's a beautiful song.
Yeah.
Nicely done. Nicely done. Do you have anything else you want to add? Well, you've got.
I just want to thank you. Yeah, I just want to thank you. Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it. I love what you're doing. I think it's just podcasting is. It's such a cool platform, and it's a cool avenue, especially to lift voices of independent bands. So really just appreciate what you're doing, and
Absolutely.
You know, I hope to be back down the line.
Well, thanks. It's been my pleasure to have you, and everything will be up on the website. I'll send you a link when it's ready.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You take care. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Indie Music Room with Heather Kelly. Be sure to listen every Saturday and Sunday right here on FortDodgeRadio.com and subscribe for all our past and upcoming shows. The Indie Music Room is a production of FortDodgeRadio.com.